Hello, everybody, and welcome back to some ECAC action. This is week number 5. I'm Newbeat. That's Knuckles. We got Edgewood College Eagles going up against the Rochester Institute of Technology. How's it going, Knuckles? You getting ready for Halloween?
Absolutely getting ready for Halloween and also really looking forward to this matchup. Obviously, diehard Eagles fan, but my mom is from Rochester. So, kind of a genetic home game, if you will.
Interesting. Yeah, you got a little bit to root for on both sides, but, speaking of the
hmm
Eagles as well, like, we will be going to a control map first, which should be exciting because last week, I think they looked pretty good on control. They played Nepal, they took a map. The other 2 maps were fairly close, so I think that'll be a good spot for them to start.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, because I think the first game I ever casted for them, they also played Nepal, and it seemed like that was one of the maps they were more comfortable with, and they got to the point, they were able to sort of like understand what they wanted to do, but maybe the execution and particularly like how the mid fight ended up breaking out just kind of didn't really, they got a little bit frazzled. Looked a lot better last week. And saw some flexibility as well. So we saw some different looks coming out from the DPS, from the tank, also from the supports as well. So I mean, I think if you're going to make a statement, if you're the Eagles, I really think it's on Koth.
Yeah, and I think you're starting to see some of their different strengths starting to come together. Like we've talked about the DPS line before, and how they're in a lot of different fights. Even in the first couple weeks of the season, they were able to get the first pick into fights. And now, as this season has progressed, we were starting to see a bit of a tighter macro come out of the team as a whole. So I think if they can combine those two things, like getting that first pick in the fight, and then all kind of sticking together with good macros, I think that's a good recipe to start stringing together fight wins.
Yeah, and communication is key as well. There's some I think some pivotal points where it really seemed like the Eagles had the upper hand, but because the team wasn't communicating effectively in the mid fight, they weren't able to like prioritize their targets very well. And so I think in the end, we know they have the mechanical talent. We know that they can do it technically. It's just really a matter of like, can they work as a team in such a way where they can win fight after fight, and even after losing fights, be able to like, regroup, and re-engage in a way that is like where they are taking fights on their terms. I mean, these are the things that really I think would make it so that they're going to be able to take these maps.
Yeah, and speaking of maps, the first one we got up today is going to be Lijiang Tower.
Ooh.
Obviously, a classic pick on the control side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we get to see Melly play the Lucio a little bit, which is what they're showing off the hop. I mean, no pun intended with the Frog Hero, but that is going to be a good look for Edgewood College. I think the Lucio, this is the Lucio map, so I think that can be a strong pick.
Well, and I've been watching some OWCS, been seeing a lot of Orisa being played. So curious how this Ryan actually plays into the Orisa. I do like them going over to the Symmetra. I mean, we have seen Kaiser. I mean, a great hit scam, but also can do work on the Symmetra as well. Very flexible. So we're gonna have to see, what their game plan is gonna be, especially against a tank that is just very difficult to take out.
Right, so the classic speed boost out of spawn, and then the sim teleporter onto the point, which is exactly how you want to play this composition. Get in and hunker down and make it hard for you to move, and that's good for Edgewood College so far. And now there's going to be a little bit of a poke phase here, waiting for Rochester School of Technology to come in.
Yeah, and saw those turrets go out, ended up getting deleted immediately, and meanwhile they're still trying to set up the turrets. And meanwhile, we see Foliage on a flank looking for Celestial Maddie, and it seems like the spear came out from nap time. Edgewood College holding strong, forcing Rochester to go after them in this fight, but we're going to be curious what the first pick's going to be.
Nice Maywall coming out there from M-Star Master. Nap time got cut off for a moment on the Orisa, but they're able to pop that Fortify and stay alive. Foliage and Kaiser both trading 1-for-1 as they both get eliminations, but the lion's share of the picks are going to Rochester here, getting more. So 15% and counting for Edgewood. They're not going to get too much here before Rochester takes control.
Yeah, and we saw that. I mean, that Genji was on the flank, and it didn't seem like Edgewood were able to effectively deal with them. And so in the end, they're able to get the pick on a Maddie, which once Maddie goes down, unfortunately, you only have Lucio healing. Now, that being said, Melee already 70% to the beat. If this is a long fight, they might be able to, they might actually be able to engage and or drop the beat mid-fight.
That would be a good opening tool for Edgewood College if they can get in here. Still working their way up, and Rochester is going to have that orbital ray online shortly, which could be the first ultimate of the map, and it will absolutely be that as ScoMo is going to pop that early on in this fight. Good disengage from Edgewood, trying to get back into this white room, stay alive as Celestial Maddie is poking in a lot of healing right now, but they're going to go down to the Terra Surge. Gordo trades one back with the charge, and another. Gordo going absolutely nuts on the Reinhardt, able to put down 3 with the Earth Shatter, and that is Edgewood in control on the back of some heroic Reinhardt play.
I mean, that is an all-might play if I've ever seen one. That fight, I mean, the teleporter coming out from Kaiser was fantastic. And, especially to avoid the orbital rate, which is at the moment the strongest ult in the game. But then also in the white room, to be able to dodge all of the damage coming out from the Orisa ult and still get the win, that is heroics coming out from Gordo.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want to see. And when Gordo's on with the Reinhardt, they are absolutely lethal on that tank roll. And that is definitely something to keep an eye on as we go forward. Now Edgewood College, a couple more ultimates online. They'll have the sim wall. They'll have a window as well. So the wall and the window. So some good architecture for them going into this next fight.
Well, Blade's going to be coming out, and that's going to be the Immortality Field, but unfortunately not going to be enough to save Celestial Maddie, who ends up getting run down by the Orisa. And this looks like it's already going to be a very quick fight win from Rochester. And ultimately, I mean, look, that's 2 big ults coming out from Rochester. So the fact that it's a clean fight, it ends really quickly, kind of works in Edgewood's favor, only because they're not going to lose too much time, and they're going to be able to come back. They're going to have the window, and with a longer fight, they're going to be able to have the Shatter and also the Blizzard.
We saw how the Shadow from Gordo worked out last time. Another nice teleport coming up from Kaiser to get them in onto the point. But Poseidon is able to get a pick early on here. That is going to be answered almost instantly. Kaiser, it can be dangerous on any hero, including that Sim, able to get a pick here. And now High Noon is going to be popped by Poseidon. Wall comes out to mitigate some of that damage, but Melly is going to fall to the Cassidy ultimate. And that is going to be Rochester School of Technology getting forward here, getting in onto the point. Kaiser is able to burn another one on the fully charged Sim, but there are just too many picks coming through. Another fight win here for Rochester, and now we are getting near the end of this round.
Seemed like there was a little bit of a miscommunication on that initial Symmetra TP. I feel like Gordo got there a little bit late. They end up trading early on, but they traded Celestial Maddie, and Celestial Maddie, you need the healing. That is the one hero you cannot lose. Meanwhile, they've already jumped in, and Naptime ends up eating the Mayo, which was gonna be Edgewood College's best tool. Unfortunately, Gordo goes down, Immortality goes out, but it might not be enough to save anybody. Kaiser goes down as well. M-Star able to get a pick on to the Brigitte, but it might be a little bit too late for Edgewood. Scrappy back and forth fight, honestly, and it didn't seem like there was any clear momentum. I mean, the way that Edgewood is playing, especially with the Symmetra TPs and the ult usage, it really could have gone either way, but that's still a strong showing. Like I said, I was worried about the Ryan via Orisa, and I thought Gordo actually played very well.
And that is really just another close round, just like we saw last week, Knuckles. A lot of back and forth on this control map as we are headed to what looks like Control Center. Oh, sorry, Night Market for our next control map. So a good start here. This will be really fun if we can see Gordo roll on the Doomfist, but I'm not going to fall for that until I see it.
Absolutely not, especially against the Orisa. I just feel like the spear versus the block that he has, yeah, that's going to be a switch over to the Reinhardt. This is for these kinds of map, this is really their bread and butter. I'd like to see them get a little bit more value out of the turrets. It seems like Kaiser's kind of throwing them into spaces where, see, in those faraway spaces, unfortunately, because they're just staying on point, they're not able to put pressure on the Rochester while they're being zapped by the turret, so they can just easily focus them down. So, I mean, at the same time, Rochester is taking this slow, which works for Edgewood, but also works for Rochester. They're going to have all their cooldowns that they need. So we're going to have to see how this ends up turning out. But I think a Maywall is going to be a big part of how this first fight ends up turning out.
MStar Master has done really good in the past too, cutting people off on the point, especially that tank. If they can get Naptime isolated on the Orisa, that could be doom for the tank coming in onto the point. Naptime already using those cooldowns, hits the Fortify, gets in onto the point, and is going to delete Kaiser. Gordo swinging away, but it's just not going to be enough damage coming through with the loss of that Symmetra early on into the fight. So just like we saw the last time around, a quick cap for Edgewood, but they're not holding on to it for too long before Rochester is able to come in and get them, kick them off the point.
I mean, and the DPS for Rochester basically almost at their ult, and that is one of the benefits of the speed ring. I mean, the Orisa can just, I mean, literally charge in, and with the spear and a few shots can take down a squishy. So Rochester takes the very quick and decisive fight. Edgewood really looking for that mail, which I think will be what determines this fight for them.
Mstar looking to avoid the spear spin from Naptime this time around when they utilize the Blizzard. Right now, Kaiser just coming around the right-hand side, seeing if they can land a couple extra shots in on Discomo. Wasn't able to finish out. The Juno is 5% away from their ult as Foliage throws down the 2K barrage in the back line. And that is going to spell disaster for Edgewood here. Luckily, they're still holding on to some of those ultimates for next fight.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, I mean, that is really the greatest blessing of that fight. I saw nap time go down, and I really thought this was going to go Edgewood's way. Really cheeky play coming out from Foliage, who got so much ult charge on that first fight. But once again, we have the Blizzard, we have the Shatter. That Shatter is unblockable unless Orisa goes gold, in which case it's still not blocked. They just don't get affected by it. Let's see how this fight plays out. Oh! Well, I don't know what's going on there, but it looked like the Risser managed to was pulled off the point. I mean, I have to say that is a scrappy fight if I have ever seen one, coming out from Edgewood, able to get the win with nap time, taking a nap time in the proverbial drink. And oh my god, I mean, Kaiser is gonna have ult. Gordo's got his ult coming up. Celestial Maddie's got his ult. This looks, I mean, as scrappy as a fight that was coming out from Rochester, this looks good for Edgewood. They are going to be able to shave time off this clock. It is 82 to 41%. Edgewood still have some time before they're able to gain that advantage, and all they need to do is survive the fair. But unfortunately, the Brig manages to get the first pick onto Kaiser. This is going to be the charge in from the Orisa, and they completely juke the Shatter. Oh, well, and that is just tragic. Gordo tries to get Rochester as they're charging in after the Orisa, and they just hide behind the pillar, are not able, they don't get shattered, and unfortunately, this is last fight territory coming out for Edgewood.
And that was really rough too. Foliage throwing down another superb barrage, getting multiple members, and now Kaiser and Poseidon are going to duel with the Deadeyes, and Poseidon is going to come out on top right now. And Foliage, knowing that the Cassidy is gone and evicted from this engagement, they're just going to get forward here and get a bunch of picks, a bunch of value on that far. Now getting it onto the point, overtime burning away, and this looks like Rochester taking the first round of the night.
Wow. And once again, I mean, this was a back and forth round. I mean, both maps really competitive. I will say on that last map, I mean, to this, I could not describe what happened to you on that one fight. I don't know why nap time went off the map. But at the same time, you know, I feel like the switch to the Orisa was just a little bit too late. You know, if you're gonna bring out the Orisa at any point, I think it just should be a little bit earlier. Maybe after the first fight, maybe after the first shatter. We didn't end up seeing a lot of value from the shatter rather. And so it makes me wonder, you know, I know Edgewood really loves to play their favorites, right? They have heroes that they really love to play, but to what extent are they really willing to be flexible? And if they're willing to be flexible in clutch time, are they willing to be flexible maybe earlier in the round? Because at the moment, Orisa is just really difficult to displace and it's really difficult to do a lot of damage. And especially with how much space that Orisa can hold, while, for example, the Pharah is taking angles, it's really difficult to be able to hold up shield as if you're Ryan, for example, right? And to or not have the speed ring as you're trying to engage. So definitely some questions being asked of Edgewood on this first map. This is certainly the strangest Koth map round I've seen from them. And, you know, who knows what they're going to come up with on the next one.
Yeah, they'll definitely want to tweak some things going into our next map. Like we've talked about it before too. Like control's not always
Yeah.
going to be what you get for the rest of the matches, but I mean, definitely some bright spots there as well. Like Gordo just going crazy on the Reinhardt there on the first round. That was really fun to watch. So we'll see kind of what other hero plays they can come out. Also, a shout out to Celestial Maddie as well on that BAP. Always seems to find a pick or two in
Yeah.
these fights. Just so lethal on the Baptiste.
No, absolutely. And, you know, it's one of the things where the question is Celestial Maddie going to have the space that they need to get those picks? And that's ultimately one of the reasons why you play Juno, for example, is because Juno is able to create a lot of space for themselves, right? And the Brig is able to like put pressure on the front line, also put pressure on flankers as well. Because with the Lucio, you need to have the Lucio up with the Ryan, so the Ryan is able to have some mobility. And we saw that with the Genji versus Celestial Maddie. So, I mean, like I said, there are questions being asked of this team, and what kind of solutions are they going to come up with? Because I don't necessarily think you have to play. I mean, I don't think you have to play the meta, but you have to play to the
Yeah.
meta. You know what
True.
I mean? And
Yeah.
I just, I worry that this is just like a static look that's just never going to change.
Yeah, and I think, like, you hope that some of it's map dependent too. I mean,
Right.
obviously, sometimes when you go to different maps, like I know historically when we go to push, Eagles like to play something along with the Maga there as well. But that is something that remains to be seen if we go that route again onto a push map. And when I say that, it's specifically Runasapi that they seem to like to play. If
Mhm.
they do go to the push, obviously we have a second map coming up first. And just Knuckles, I wanted to give a quick shout out to you as well. Some nice play by play there. The bandwidth monster got me for a moment, so I really, really do appreciate you stepping up there.
I mean, to be honest, I thought I was in the twilight zone. I've been having so many internet issues. I was like, "It's me, it's me. Just be quiet, just be quiet." They're gonna be hearing like lagging knuckles, uh, uh, and then whatever. But I appreciate it. My first time doing play by play. But you know what? I mean, this is still exciting and fun to watch Overwatch. I mean, this is really,
Yeah.
it's always just there's a lot going on and there's a lot to be able to shout out. And so, whether you're doing color, whether you're doing commentary, play by play, it's a joy.
And speaking of, something exciting, we got a fans' favorites coming up, and obviously not too much of a surprise. We got Kings Row coming up for our second map.
Scrims row. I'm gonna say that until it gets incredibly old. I promise. But I mean, this was a really interesting map. The last time that we saw the Eagles play it, because if I recall correctly, they were able to really take maximum momentum on point C, which is the most difficult point to
Hmm.
take. But they also showed some different looks here, and they showed different ways of taking point A. And of course, like with the way that the meta is changing, there's different ways to play point A. So I'd be really curious to see what they end up pulling out. Are they going to rotate to that right side, take high ground away, or are they going to go straight to point and maybe force Rochester to come to the point? Are they going to use the May walls that they used last time in order to cover the areas where they were able, or the other team were able to get like their ash poke, for example? Stuff like this. But I thought that Eagles looked very flexible here. They look comfortable. So I'm really excited to see what they have.
Yeah, and you pointed it out as well. I thought it was really interesting last week when, they looked really strong on point C, which can sometimes be the hardest point to take in Kings Row. And they forced it basically to extra innings last time around. We'll see what they want to do this time. Gordo looking like they want to opt into the Zarya this time around, which is something we have seen from them in the past as well.
Yeah, and I remember they pulled this out last week because one of my concerns was that the Zarya needs slower gameplay than the Orisa. They actually got a decent amount of success, and I felt that they were able to play the game that they wanted to play. Now we're gonna see something new coming out. We're gonna see M-Star on the Venture with the Sojourn, which we've seen before. So this is a really exciting new look coming out from the Eagles.
And one thing the Eagles will have to watch for is all the poke coming out from the side of Rochester with the Orisa, with the Ash, even with the Juno to a point, as long as they're too close. But already they got a couple picks, and Rochester looking good, and is really going to rebuff this attack very quickly here. Only 30 seconds gone.
Yeah, Adventure's going to be the first one to go down in that fight. Seemed like Rochester did a really good job getting to where Edgewood were trying to engage before Edgewood got there. We saw Kaiser there, kind of on a long flank, seeing if he could catch anyone out while they were trying to deal with Edgewood as they engage, which is a clever look. Unfortunately, not able to get any picks. Meanwhile, they have so much damage coming out in this poke phase.
Yeah, and the Storm's Eye subbed in on the Brig has been looking good so far, trying to get rid of that Venture as well. That's good to have the Brig around. Foliage is able to get a dash clear kill onto Melly to start this off, and now with nap time finding Pager with the Javelin, this is going to be another quick fight going Rochester's way.
It seems like MStar is really focusing on the Orisa, which I think is a strange choice for the Venture. I think if you're going to do that, you might as well have like the Reaper, maybe a Tracer. I'd be curious to see if they end up putting any backline pressure on. It seems like Edgewood College want to play the point, but even, I worry about the Zarya being a little fragile. I worry about the Venture when they don't have any cooldowns being a little bit fragile, but we're coming up on the old phase right now. We're going to have the overclock. We're also going to have the orbital ray coming out from Rochester.
And we've been seeing it for quite a few weeks now. That orbital ray is such a impactful ultimate in these fights, whether you want to start off with it or put it in a little bit later. This time around, just holding onto it, seeing right now if Edgewood can get some of the high ground. Gordo really trying to get forward and push in. Not able to get any kills, but is definitely creating some space here on that tank roll. But now the counter is coming back, and ScoMo and Poseidon are going to get two, and that is going to spell an end to this attack.
I mean, getting out the orbital ray really in a loss is exactly what you wanted from Edgewood. Now, they ended up using the overclock for that as well. However, they're going to have the beat building up to that grab, still not quite there. Now, Kaiser's going to go over to the Widow, and I actually don't think this is a bad shout, just because I think one pick could force some serious rotations coming out from Rochester, which might get them the point.
And we both know that Kaiser has the skill to find that cheeky elimination on the Widowmaker. We'll see if they can get lucky here. So far, just finding the break shield, and now we got Poseidon throwing Bob in onto the point, so that is going to force Edgewood to back up a little bit here. Obviously not wanting to run into that ultimate, as Poseidon's able to find M-Star Master. And this is just a disengage coming up from Edgewood here. They know they don't want to go back in, but Kaiser could open this up here with that pick onto Foliage.
Foliage, of course, having the ult, which means the only ult they're going to be having is the rally. Now, the rally is incredibly powerful. Poseidon, Kaiser unfortunately goes down to Poseidon. However, we're going to have the Venture ult. As long as MZR can stay alive, which they're able to do, that's going to force the Brig ult out. If they can just manage to disengage, unfortunately, not going to be able to do that. Gordo manages to throw in the Graviton Surge, which catches two people, I believe, but it's not going to lead to any picks. And hopefully, they're going to be able to get out with high energy, but that's not going to be happening. That was just... I mean, there's only two ults coming out from Edgewood, one ult coming out from Edgewood. They are going to have three going into this next fight. There's still a lot to look forward to, but they're going to have to look out for that Genji Blade, and if the fight lasts long enough, they're going to have to look out for the Orbital Ray.
Yeah, it's going to be Celestial Maddie probably wanting to pop the Orbital Ray of their own before ScoMo was able to build up to the Juno ult. And now Maddie getting forward, seeing if they can get any heals in onto the point, throws out the pulsers, trying to zone people back. Kaiser's able to get another pick, and that is going to be the go button. The orbital ray is coming out on both sides, so both teams getting some extra healing, some extra damage, and M-Star Master is going to take advantage of it, able to delete the break, get rid of the Storm's Eye, and that is going to force Foliage to go out with the blade, going down to 39 HP, and now 0 M-Star Master is able to finish him off. And in the nick of time, the Eagles are going to stay alive, and if they can get the cleanup here, they're going to take this point. Naptime is back on the Orisa, able to find one, but there just wasn't enough HP remaining for Rochester to hold on to that point.
Oh, my poor heart. Oh, it was like Edgewood had it, and then they didn't have it, and then they had it, and then oh, that was just really stressful. Edgewood able to pull out point A. At the end, Foliage pulls out the blade, and it really looked like an AKM blade there. Great for zoning, not great for picks. Edgewood College still going to be sticking with this Widowmaker. I think it's interesting. Again, I don't think it's actually the worst pick, although I don't think it's as effective as it would be on point A. But we are seeing Gordo going over to the Orisa. We're seeing Celestial Maddie going over to the Juno. So we're seeing, again, leading a little bit more into the meta. Poseidon's going to be having that Bob, though. So we're going to see how that's going to affect where and how this fight's going to take place.
Likely Poseidon wanting to throw that Bob down in onto the point, but this is really interesting seeing Gordo on the Orisa. That could be a pick that really changes things in Eagles' favor if they're able to stay alive here. A member of Edgewood getting low, but they are able to stay in onto their feet. Now that's going to be a Bob and a Terra Surge coming out. Gordo just trying to live through the wrath of Bob, and they are able to do so. Stay alive in this fight. Good use of the extra durability coming out from that. Orisa, Kaiser, and Naptime going in for a trade. 4v4 action happening now onto the point as the rally gets popped by the Storm's Eye, staying in onto the point. That is going to make it hard for the Eagles to cut down Edgewood with the extra overhealth coming in from the Brig ultimate. Naptime is able to find one in onto Melly, and that could spell the beginning of the end of this fight for Edgewood Eagles, and that looks like the case now with other members falling.
One of the downsides of using the Widowmaker is that once the Venture goes down, the Orbital Ray for Edgewood is really only benefiting like the Orisa. You're not really going to get a whole lot of damage coming out of it just because the Widow's probably not going to be within the Orbital Ray. So, unfortunately, you're going to have to give up that point. Manage to get 2 ults out. That we're gonna have, I was about to say, mirroring orbital rays already coming out. This is gonna be a quick fight, and they're able to take out Gordo. Unfortunately, really before the fight comes out, they just out-tempoed them. Now, are they gonna be able to stabilize and get a last fight in? It's gonna be another point, another pick coming out, and oh, the Terror Surge. This looks like Rochester might have this. I mean, I don't think Edgewood's gonna be able to push this cart any further. However, Melee's on the point, so well, there you go.
Melly with a classic Lucio play. That's
Yep.
just that's something that we've been seeing for years coming up from Lucio players. Now a nice Maywall coming out here, seeing if they can catch nap time out. That is a perfect Maywall, but nobody can touch the point. And that will do it. Edgewood College getting 72 meters on the second point before Rochester's attack.
I mean, that's one of the things I was really worried about the Widowmaker, and one of the things that the Ashe does is that with everybody who being relatively close to each other because of how the Orisa meta is played with Juno, Dynamite is able to do so much damage. Now, Kaiser did a fantastic job on point A, getting picks, opening up the point. But point B, I mean, that's a really difficult point to get picks on the Widowmaker. Maybe they stayed on the Widowmaker a little bit too long. Who knows? However, Rochester were able to comfortably equalize. You know, they sent out the Bob that got the Terror Surge out, which meant that the Terror Surge wasn't available for the Orbital Ray. And so it felt like Edgewood was really playing into Rochester's game plan at that point. But we know that point A holds are possible, and we know that Edgewood might pull out something a little bit different. We've seen them play the Sigma before, and we might even be seeing Melee on the Zen. So completely new look coming out from Edgewood. Who knows? Maybe they will be able to pull out some magic for a full hold.
Yeah, really want to focus in on those Discord orbs, see if Melly can light somebody up, and then everybody take them down with that extra damage boost that comes in with shooting somebody with that purple orb over their head. Edgewood College here, I like this look. I think Gordo has been a really strong Sigma whenever we've seen them pull it out, so that could be a boon for them as well.
Absolutely, and this is going to be the start of the attack. Poseidon maybe giving us a look on that Widow, and will they keep it? Yes, they will. Edgewood going to have to play their angles a little bit more, sharply. Sorry, that's barely a word. But nap time's already taken the point.
Yeah, good move by the Orisa. Getting in onto the point is going to force somebody from the Edgewood Eagles to get down in onto the point to make sure that they can start contesting this, because they don't want to give up anything for free with the necessary attack or defense that they have ahead of them. And so far so good. They're able to stave off the attack for the time being and stay in on the point.
Looks like Edgewood are kind of running after this Widowmaker, able to pick Poseidon now. M-Star now on their own. However, they have the Ice Block, are going to be able to pause things a little bit. Gordo comes back, also able to get a pick onto the Brig. But they're going to tray out their backline, actually. And it looks like the Orisa's still alive. The Orisa's what? I mean, how low are they? Still alive, still able to get the pick on the Kaiser. Nap time just ran into Edgewood's backline, and nothing could take them out. This is why Orisa is so strong right now, is because Orisa is so hard to kill. Unfortunately, you know, with the BAP Zen backline, you're not able to have enough space to really take advantage of those sightlines just because of how quickly the offense are able to move on your backline. So Edgewood going to hold on B here, which I think for their comp, this should be a decent hold for them. They should be able to hold some space with the longer sightlines. Of course, as I say that, Gordo goes down.
That's going to be rough with Gordo going down. That means that Edgewood is not going to be able to hold on to that archway. They're going to have to back up even further. And Knuckles, I gotta say, as somebody that plays a lot of support, there's nothing worse than seeing that Orisa running down on you.
Oh my god, and trust me, I mean, Zen is probably my best hero in the game, but that's just the thing, is that, you know, if you're a Sig, how do you stop the Orisa, right? If you're, I mean, the Doom is certainly, I don't know what they're going to be able to do against Orisa either, because there's really, you should be diving the backline as Doom anyways, and this isn't really a dive comp. Sight's going to be coming out from Poseidon. However, they also are going to have 4 other ults. I'm curious to see if there's some genuine Harry Potter-esque magic that Edgewood's going to be able to pull out in order to save this point.
I mean, Maddie doing all they can, throwing down that window, is able to finish off nap time. And now with the Transcendence out as well, Edgewood College just spending everything they can. They know they have to stay on the cart right here. Poseidon's able to find a headshot onto Melly once that Transcendence expires, and not too much further to go for this payload. As of yet, nobody on it for Rochester, so Eagles holding on by the skin of their teeth, but now they got 5 coming in from Rochester with the orbital ray. This is going to be rough to hold on to, and
Oh,
nobody touches for the Eagles, and that's going to be do it. That's going to do it for this map. Rochester going up 2-0, and they're looking pretty strong.
that really looked like a possible Cinderella hold there. I thought Rochester had it, but of course they back off a little bit. More of Edgewood is able to touch the point, contest. But of course, once the orbital ray comes out, I mean, M Star just got deleted. And that is what the orbital ray does. I mean, it is healing. It is also a damage boost, which is why it's so incredibly powerful right now. And I mean, we saw different looks coming out from Edgewood. The question is, are they choosing the ones that I think are gonna give them the best opportunities to be able to win, or at the very least play in a way in which they can play to their win conditions?
Right.
And that's the question that we're still waiting to see how it's gonna be answered.
And it's a really good sign, I think, to see the Juno come out, to see that Orisa come out. Like, these are picks that are so strong right now. And, playing them like consistently for the first time, there is going to be some growing pains there. Like, you got to get used to it in this setting. But like at some point, you got to rip that band-aid off and go in and just play the Orisa, play the Juno. So I think it is a positive sign that we're seeing the Eagles go ahead and pick those heroes.
Absolutely. And the other thing as well is that like with the Orisa, we know how aggressive Gordo likes to play. Great. Spear spin in, use the spear, get a squishy, shoot him down. That kind of aggression could be is the Orisa is a hero where you can play that Ryan style of aggression. And so I'm curious to see what the hesitation there is otherwise, because I mean, I think that Gordo can go in and get picks. We've seen him do it on the Reinhardt. We've even seen him do it on the Zara. This is something that I think is like it is how he likes to play. Now the Juno is different, and we saw Celestial Maddie, poking down some of Rochester in the neutral with the Juno, but it doesn't feel the same, and you're not doing as much damage, and you're really not doing as much. So that is actually a difference because we know. I mean, Celestial Fraggy, we understand they want to be able to do some damage, and that is going to be a more difficult shift if that is how they see their hero. In which case, I do understand that.
Yeah, and that's it's going to be really intriguing to see what they want to do otherwise. Because like we saw the Juno come out, we saw the Arista come out, but then on the flip side, like I didn't hate the Venture pick.
No,
I think I do agree with you. Like the Widow might have been held on to a bit too long, but I feel like those hero picks are coalescing closer and closer to what we would call the meta right now.
agreed. And honestly, I love experimentation. If we're just seeing different looks, I think that's great. And like you said, we want the bravery. Just rip off the band-aid. We want to be able to see a team that is going to take new looks. And the Venture is brand new, by the way. I have never seen them play that
Yeah.
hero. And even with Venture's a very specific hero. It is like a min-max they are a min-max tracer where they're not able to hold neutral spaces as well, but once they engage, if it is a 1v1 versus a squishy, they're going to win, right? And that is kind of a lot of where their value comes from. And so there's going to be growing pains there, but happy to see this look. Happy to see something like the Venture on point A Kingsville. I wasn't expecting that at all. And so as long as I'm surprised, honestly, that means they're experimenting, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, and I always think of Venture as basically like the old, DPS Doomfist from back in the day. Like
Right.
you have those cooldowns to either get in or get out, what depending on how you want to use them. But however you end up using, you have to maximize your cooldowns because if you don't, the Venture can be so vulnerable once they don't have that exit strategy. We are getting word that our third map is going to go to Runasapi.
I mean, I am just shocked. Positively shocked. I mean, we know the Eagles love this map. This seems to be a map as well that in pro play is preferred as well. I
True.
think that, yeah, I just think that there's a lot of variation in terms of where you can take the fights and how you can take cover and what kind of compositions that allows, versus some of the other maps. I mean, I think it's a pretty map. I have no problem looking at it. I think it's lovely to look at. And one of the reasons I love to watch the Eagles on this map again, we get to see Gordo on the Mauga. And that's just a different look, and I love to see Gordo try different looks because, again, we can get a sense for what his playstyle is, and we know it's aggressive. We know he wants to be in the front line, do damage, and put pressure on the front line as well as the back line. So, I mean, we're gonna see if maybe there's some adjustments coming out from last week. I know they lost this map last week. However, they really had some positive looks as well.
And you mentioned Runesapi just as a map itself. Like I remember when it came out, somebody was asking me like, "Hey, have you seen Runesapi? Have you seen the new map? Like, how does it look?" I'm like, "It looks amazing. Like all the other maps, like Blizzard, say what you will about them, and there's a lot of downsides, but they always knock these map designs out of the park, both aesthetically and with how they play. And I think that Runesapi is no exception there. And to start us off, we're going to see Gordo on the Winston, so no Maga. They're going to go out on the Scientist, Emster Master on the Sombra as well, which is a look we've seen in the past, this Sombra Pharah DPS line.
Well, and Melly on the Ana, Celestial Maddie on the Mercy. This is an entirely different look. And I'm gonna stick by what I said. As long as we're seeing different looks, I'm happy. You know, Kaiser on the Pharah, M-Star on the Sombra. I'm really excited to see kind of what this map's gonna end up looking like.
Yeah, both teams going for
Ooh.
fairly different looks right now. Naptime is going to get hit with a bio nade. That's a huge nade coming up from Melly. It was able to finish off the Storm's Eye as well. So that is advantage Edgewood off the back of a brilliant bio nade coming out from the flex support.
We call that a Goomba Stomp. Gordo absolutely flattening ScoMo. Words that I never thought I would ever say, if I'm being honest. But fantastic first fight coming out from Edgewood. I mean, looking really confident, especially, if you listen to kind of quick play Overwatch wisdom, this is meant that Edgewood is supposed to be at the disadvantage. Winston is bad into Junker Queen, guys. Great first fight coming out from Edgewood. Really confident looking win, though.
That's another new sentence, putting quick play and wisdom in the same sentence. It's also a bold move. But, I mean, looking good so far. Edgewood is showing that they really understand how this comp's working, and you can see the coordination right now as Gordo and Kaiser combined to get two. ScoMo and Poseidon have to go back to spawn, and now Kaiser is just dumping in damage from on high with the Pharah, and this is another fight win for Edgewood Eagles, and they are off to a ripping start here in Runesapi.
I mean, this is a fantastic, unconventional look coming out from Edgewood. Everyone looks comfortable on their roles, and it seems also, just some fantastic team Overwatch being played. Rochester taking totally off guard. We are seeing the switch over to the Reaper. Gordo, apparently a little too dangerous for Rochester. They want to have that extra insurance to make sure that they can take out that Winston. However, we have 3 ults coming out for Edgewood.
And we know they're going to want to combine that Winston with the Nano Boost, and that's exactly what they do. And now Barrage from up top, Naptime is going to cut that Pharah ultimate short, and even though they sent Gordo in with that Nano Boost, Gordo wasn't quite able to build themselves up to the Primal Rage, dying at 97%. And that is going to be Rochester taking control and absorbing some of those ultimates.
I mean, Gordo also just absolutely power stomps Poseidon, which, if you know anything about power scaling, means a lot on the big enough scale. However, we're gonna have the EMP coming up for this fight. Now we're also gonna have Naptime's ult, so this is gonna be an incredibly consequential fight because at the moment they're at 50%.
Yeah, that anti-heal can be so strong for the Junker Queen, but I believe they were interrupted through a hack early on in that ultimate, so not getting a ton of value out of the JQ right there. M-Star still has the EMP online, and they are going to throw it down, able to get one with the virus. Maddie's able to get in with a huge resurrect onto Melly. That could turn this fight around. The Storm Eye, however, is finally able to punish M-Star on the Sombra, and Naptime with the knife onto Melly sends the Ana down again. So as of now, Rochester's still in control.
Rochester just able to edge out that fight. I really thought that was going to be Kaiser's hero moment, but unfortunately, M-Star's late EMP looked good, but didn't end up with the fight win. Rochester going to be coming out with 2 ults, verging on 3. Gonna see how, are they going to be able to bait out the beat, or is the beat going to be used to engage, especially given that Edgewood don't really have any ults right now, maybe except for that Pharah, which they're going to have.
And that means Rochester, if they're tracking odds, will want to be really judicious with these ultimate usage. And now the Barrage is going to come out early from Kaiser, and Kaiser's going to be able to get rid of the Storm Eye before they throw down the beat. That is absolutely massive. Poseidon trades one back with the rail shot, but Kaiser's going back in. They're looking for more. Bionade coming out from Melly once again, absolutely hitting these from the Ana, from the back line, but still push coming through for Rochester. They haven't given up this point yet, but that's Poseidon going down as well. M-Star Master with a great pick with the Virus.
Foliage showing off that new Boku no Hero skin. Looks fantastic. Rochester going to be going into this fight with 4 ults. Should be in their favor. However, Edgewood are going to be pushing them back at least to the 50% point. Maybe Rochester are wanting to have a better place to be able to hold so they can make the best use of their ults.
Also negating those forward spawns for Rochester. But right now they got a lot of ultimates to spend into this fight. The Junker Queen going into the backline with the Rampage isn't really able to find anybody as Melly has that Nano Boost coming online now, and Celestial Maddie is going to throw down the Mercy ult, but Foliage gets 2 with the Death Blossom, including Kaiser on the Pharah. So that is going to be the teeth coming out of this fight for Edgewood College. It won't have that extra damage, and Rochester School of Technology is back in control.
I mean, that's going to be 3 ults coming out from Rochester, but they still have 2 more, and the rally incredibly powerful right now. But Edgewood's going to have the EMP. That's going to be incredibly impactful. Maybe they're going to be able to synchronize the EMP with the Pharah ult because they don't have any support ults right now. Now, Gordo kind of coming up to the D.Va bomb, but I do think that, that the D.Va is a better look for Gordo. I think it's going to be better to be flexible to be able to deal with some of the flanking, and and also for them to be able to get out. It's going to be able to allow them to temper their aggression. Of course, as I say that, they end up getting D-Mech. Kaiser ends up getting 1 with their ult. Naptime comes out with the 2-piece. I think Edgewood's going to have to group up, kite this, don't get picked any more picks because they're very close. I mean, this is 105 meters, but Edgewood has 96.
Now they are going to have to win a couple fights in a row once they get back in control of the bot. Foliage just wreaking havoc on this Reaper into the backline. Celestial Maddie's going to have to get that resurrection off once again. This time in on to M-Star Master. Gordo getting so very low on the D.Va mech, and they are going to go down. They will spend the self-destruct to get back into their tank, but now nap time is going to fall, so that is 1 tank for the other. And even though Kaiser goes down, this is going to be advantage now for Edgewood getting forward, getting rid of ScoMo with the micro missiles, and now Edgewood back in control.
Absolutely, and honestly, it seemed a little bit unlikely, but Edgewood able to pull out the fight when there. By the way, without spending the EMP, Celestial Maddie is also built up to a Valk. Rochester gonna have that Reaper ult, but they've also switched over to the Curie, which means that they're not gonna be having the Brig or the Rally, which means that Edgewood might have a little bit of an easier time jumping on Rochester's backline.
And right now, Kaiser's just going to pepper in a couple rockets, not able to find any eliminations. M-Star Master has the EMP online, but they get low. They have to teleport out, only 30 or so HP. Kaiser's able to get into the back end. 1, they are going to delete nap time, and now 2 to the good as Poseidon succumbs. And that is going to be Edgewood pushing forward on the back of a couple eliminations from that Pharah. And now they are getting some forward progress here, but they still have a fair ways to go.
I mean, we call that working them in the neutral, able to take out fights, take out everyone basically without using any ults. Fantastic job from Edgewood. Kaiser really popping off on this Pharah. Love this look from them. It seems like they're able to have so much freedom to be able to do so much damage, to be able to force cooldowns out of Rochester. And Edgewood, despite losing M-Star, still have the ultimate advantage.
Going to back up a little bit here, trying to punish after they got a great stagger kill in onto ScoMo, but unfortunately weren't able to capitalize here. Gordo has to back up as they are down to half HP, but a good disengagement so far from Edgewood College, waiting for Kaiser to get back in with the fight, or M-Star Master to get back into the fight. Death Blossom comes out, and that is going to find 1. Foliage in the backline was able to evade the defense matrix and get that Reaper off. All has to ghost out to dodge damage coming out from Gordo's self-destructive. They're staying in onto the point. Nice dive in onto the Stormlight. The Lucio is gone. And that is going to be Edgewood College getting forward once again, using some of this aggression to the good, following the lead of Gordo, able to get multiple picks. And after cleaning up these staggers, they should be able to take control of the bot back.
I mean, Foliage still doing so much damage, doing so much for Rochester. Ends up getting the D-Mech onto Gordo, but ScoMo is going to be taken out by Celestial Maddie. We know that they love to whip out that Glock. And It looks like Rochester, they have some ults coming up though. I mean, that Lucio ult's gonna be able to extend any fight. Nap time, the Queen ult, we know how powerful it is, but MSAR has the EMP. Kaiser, switch over to the Echo, gonna be a little bit better in the neutral. Unfortunately, Poseidon is gonna be taking out Melly. And of course, I only ever thought it was gonna be in my dreams that Poseidon was a cowboy.
That is a lot to unpack there, I gotta say, Knuckles, as we are getting ready for the final fight here. Only 20 seconds left to go, and Edgewood College is gonna have to pull out something big if they want to get back in control of the bot. But with Gorda going down early on in the fight, that could spell disaster for the Eagles. They've lost their tank. They don't have the resurrection available, and now with the ultimates coming out and that Deadeye, it means M-Star Masters EMP is just going to be a little bit too late as this time runs down. Nobody there to touch for the Eagles, and Rochester is going to take this one 3-0.
It's confirmed that Rochester is being sponsored by Big Suzu. That Suzu doing an incredible job keeping Poseidon up, making sure they get that kill. Honestly, it seemed like Edgewood had every tool to succeed, but weren't able to get in a position where they could use it. I felt like M-Star held onto that EMP forever. But the thing I want to highlight is just what a different look coming off from Edgewood. I did not expect this in the slightest. And they look
Yeah,
good.
and that means, like, going forward, this is absolutely something you can build on going into the next couple weeks. I mean, we kind of said it off the top, Knuckles, like you specifically. We really wanted to see a little bit more adaptability, a little bit more just flexibility in these hero selections, and the Eagles delivered. They were showing us a diva, which honestly, Gorda looked pretty good on that diva. I would like to see more of that in the future. And we did see like the venture on King's Row as well, and a little bit of that Orisa. So Gordo, especially, just trying to start branching out on these tanks.
I mean, and shout out to Melly and Celestial Maddie as well. I think we've seen more flexibility from them in this match than we've ever seen from them. I mean, Melly had some sick nades. I mean, I thought did really good job. I love Celestial Maddie's movement on the Mercy. We know Celestial Maddie loves the DPS. However, it's also really important to know how to stay alive, and I thought they did a really good job of that actually. And so, I want to give a big shout out to Eagles just because this is one of the big things that you and I have been talking about, and I felt like they rose to the challenge. This was a 3-0, but this is, I mean, this is closer than a lot of other games have been, to be honest. And I feel, especially on Runasapi, this was this was entirely winnable. But the ways in which this map ended up becoming a loss, absolutely fixable. Absolutely fixable. This is something that I think moving forward, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing, some better results because I think it's going to happen.
And it's not even just this last map. Like I think you Runasapi is like a microcosm of what we've seen a lot this year. Is like the Eagles are just like a fight or two a win away from winning like a lot of these maps. So that is something that I think we really got to keep an eye on in the future. Like they feel like they're just so close to breaking through and just, maybe an extra limb here or like one extra ability here. And they can really start winning some of these fights.
I mean, I will say, and I definitely saw this on Urgent Hoppy as well. I mean, I remember the first time I casted them, one of the things that I noticed was that, like, in the mid fight, it seemed like they're just trading, but they're not trading in a way that's advantageous. And we definitely saw that a little bit throughout these maps, but I think particularly in Runasapi. And, one of the things that I think was really helpful for them is that they had Kaiser on the Pharah. And Pharah, as everyone knows, does so much damage. Kaiser's aim is so good that they're able to turn fights. If a hero is like a little bit low, then they're able to get the pick. If they're not low, they're able to do a chunk down bunch of damage. And so I thought that really worked in their advantage just because we know how good Kaiser's aim was. And so, but still mid fight, a little bit sloppy. Maybe that's a communication issue. Maybe that's something else, but they're nearly there. I mean, they really are nearly there.
Listen, Kaiser's so crazy on any hero. I'm pretty sure she could unbind her primary fire and be better than me at most DPS heroes,
Oh,
if
I
not
can
all.
confirm.
Probably all. So that is going to do it for Mississippi. Unfortunately, Knuckles and I will not be here for that one, but somebody uh, will still be streaming, it looks like. So stay tuned to this channel for that. We will be back, though, November 7th versus Keene University. So we're not done quite yet, Knuckles, but we will be seeing the Eagles again in the future. So for Knuckles, I'm Newbeat. Big shout out to Ageless and Sharp for doing the prod and the spectating as well. We really appreciate making us look good. But that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.